it doesn't seem fair. It's not fair to even bring Steve Nash up into this because this is not about him. No more than it was about Steve Kerr. We knew that Steve Kerr could potentially do a great job in Golden State, which he ended up doing. But when Mark Jackson lost his job, we're saying, damn, you walking into a situation, ain't no way Steve Kerr gonna fail. Ain't no way Steve Nash is gonna fail. But black coaches get jobs all the time where you're rebuilding, you got half-ass talent, dudes that can't get it done, their record is gonna stink, they're gonna stink up the joint. These brothers ain't gonna get another job. That's the kind of thing that I'm talking about when I bring something like this up. So I apologize if anybody for Steve Nash is Steve Nash is a good brother, and I'm rooting for him in every way. He's just the latest example, is all I'm trying to say. And it's not about Marks, and it's not about Nash. It's really about KD and Kyrie and the choice they made during these times when so many qualified black candidates are coaching in the NBA. And you know how many times brothers call me and say, yo, Stephen A., you gotta say this, you gotta say this, you gotta say that. But you got an opportunity to do something and you didn't do it. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, now, Stephen A., Stephen A., I will concede to you. I'm sorry, Max. One of the things I'll concede to you is you're correct. Of all the job openings, whether it's Chicago, Indiana, Philly, New Orleans, of all the job openings, this is the most coveted. This is the one with the most talent. This is the one that has the best chance to win a championship over the next 2 to 3 years, even possibly next year if everyone's healthy and everything goes right. You are correct. So when you see the best opportunity given to somebody with very little experience, even the ones that I referenced before, they weren't exactly apples to apples. So you are correct. That's why these conversations are so important for everyone to have, because we need to talk about them, we need to discuss them, we need to point out the differences, and we need to point out the similarities. So I'll concede to you on that. I'm not saying that, hey, look, there are other people that are more qualified. The only thing that I want to make sure is that when we're talking about purely from a basketball standpoint, this was not an unprecedented situation. That was my only argument.
Right.
But I do see when you see the long list of black coaches that might feel the best opportunity of all the coaching opportunities, right? Then they might feel a little deflated or a little disenfranchised. I agree with you. So on that part of it, we are on the same page. So that's the only thing that I want to make sure that I express is that Stephen A., I understand your point. Saying. It's not that Steve Nash is not qualified, but that's the thing. We have to have a little bit longer of a conversation to make sure that everyone understands that we are bringing this together and putting a bow on it the right way. I am not defending Steve Nash. I am not defending Stan Marks. You are not vilifying either of them. They are qualified. They get the opportunities. We had other examples, but ultimately what you're talking about is that the best job, the best opportunity went to maybe the least qualified in this moment. Not a person not deserving of the job, but the least qualified. But you're right. This gets signed off by KD and Kyrie, and understandable. They have relationships with them. So it's tough because that's purely a basketball decision.
Woj tweeted out something similar to what you said, Richard, about an hour ago or so, that there's a history in modern NBA of hiring point guards, retired point guards, whether future Hall of Famers or champions or just really excellent point guards, to head coaching positions with little or no coaching experience, including, by the way, Doc Rivers, who got the Magic job and then that Celtics job. It was a pretty good job. And there may not be Isaiah Thomas, many, and many are African American. You mentioned Jason Kidd and someone else earlier, Richard.
Derek Fisher.
As examples of what now. Stephen A., Derek Fisher, if you want to focus on what is the most desirable job and why did that go to a white guy, or even, hey, ahead of more qualified candidates, or at least candidates with resumes as coaches, okay. The Nets, though, are in the position where they're trying to win. And if you believe coaching matters, there may be other qualified coaches, but maybe the Nets feel actually Nash gives them the best chance to win. Just as like if you're in a draft, if Luka Doncic is available, you might take a flyer on him and say, there are lots of other candidates for this draft position who are African-American in a predominantly African-American league, but we're trying to win and we think he gives us the best chance. So I understand what the optics are, and I understand your argument. In this case, though, given the relationship with KD, it makes sense to me.
Mm-hmm. Well, listen, I'm not saying that it shouldn't make sense to you, Max, and I don't mean to cut in. I'm not disrespecting your position in any way. I appreciate where you're coming from, Max, and there's no disagreement here. And RJ, you're right. That's why I wanted to bring the conversation back, because I wanted to make sure we wrapped the ribbon and a bow on this conversation in appropriate fashion. That's why I wanted you to stay on the show, and I appreciate that. But I want to get to this final point. Understanding that when it comes to minorities in position of management, particularly in the NFL and the NBA, one of the things that black coaches in both professions, in both sports, have been clamoring for is some kind of centralized standard. Why? Because the 30 to 32 teams, depending on which league you're talking about, NBA or NFL, you know what? They can basically do what they want to do. And without a centralized standard, you have a license to bypass or create different criteria and do all of this stuff. So guess what? No matter what we do, you come up with a new rule or a new loophole or whatever the case may be to get the person that you wanted. This is why a Rooney Rule existed in the NFL to begin with. Because somehow, some way, every time we turned around, there was some different standard that was brought into the equation as a means to elevate somebody less qualified, on paper anyway, who happened to be white. And somebody who was considerably more qualified, on paper anyway, who happened to be black, to be denied those opportunities. This is what we're talking about here. And again, it's not about Marks. It's not about Nash. They did nothing wrong, nothing. But when you got KD and you got Kyrie, two superstars in this league, in Brooklyn, New York, off Atlantic Avenue, and this is your choice. I'm just saying. Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.